My ex-girlfriend convinced me to co-sign for her student loans, promising we'd pay them together after graduation. Then she cheated on me, moved in with the other guy, and told people I was financially controlling her. She stopped making payments and ruined my credit for 7 years while building her career. Now she's getting married to a wealthy man and needs those loans off her record. I've been waiting 7 long years to have this conversation with her. I'm Daniel, 29 years old, male, and I can still smell the paper when I think about it. Cheap toner and nervous sweat. That day is stuck to me like a sticky note you can't peel off clean. Lena, 29 years old, female, had her chin tucked in the way she does when she's selling sincerity. Palms warm on my forearm as we sat in the cramped office at First State Credit Union. "We're a team," she whispered, breath sweet with the vanilla latte I bought because she'd forgot her wallet again. I remember the coffee ring she left on the loan packet. It bled into the line where my name went. Symbolic, right? Like the ink was already bruised. Lena wasn't always a villain in my head. She was this neon person. Loud earrings, louder laugh. The kind of girl who turned every grocery run into a photo shoot because good light is free. She called me her rock. I liked being sturdy for her, even when sturdy meant skipping my own dentist appointment to drive her to class because it was too rainy to Uber. She had a way of making no sound like neglect. When we met sophomore year, she patched my torn hoodie with dental floss and said, "Don't worry, I fix things." I believed her. Caleb, 29 years old, male, my best friend since we traded Pokemon cards on a church bus, eyed her like a cat watching a ceiling fan. He's got this low voice that only rises when he's sure he's right. "You know co-signing is marriage without rings," he said the week she brought over the forms. I laughed him off because Lena was cupping my face, promising we'd attack the debt together after graduation. 2 salaries, meal prep Sundays, shared Google Sheet. She could turn the future into a Pinterest board, and I was so in love with the layout I forgot to check if the shelves were drillable. My mom, 56 years old, female, texted me a photo of her own credit score with a prayer hands emoji. "Guard this," she wrote. She grew up cash-strapped, rent in envelopes, groceries from coupons, so credit to her was sacred. I told her I had it handled. I said the words like I owned them. That's the thing about pride. It sounds like competence until it breaks like a plate. The loan officer was this gray, tired man who looked like he'd seen 100 versions of me. He slid the papers across. "You understand you're equally responsible," he droned. Lena squeezed my fingers under the desk, nails pressing crescents into my skin like a secret brand. "Babe," she mouthed. "We're good." I signed. The pen snagged on a fiber and left a tiny tear beside my last name. Lena kissed the spot like a superstition. "Done," she chirped, throwing her arms around my neck, the metal bangles on her wrist cold against my skin. Outside, it actually did start raining, one of those summer showers that make the pavement smell new. We ran to the car laughing, her heels slipping, our apartment window later fogging up as she danced on the couch to some song about forever. I didn't see the cracks then, the maxed-out card for textbooks, the Mondays that felt like hangovers even when she swore she hadn't gone out, the way compliments were IOUs I kept paying with apologies. All I knew was the look she gave me that day, shiny, grateful, a promise wrapped in mascara, and how good it felt to be chosen by someone so electric. I thought we were signing for a future. Turns out I was just carving my name into the first brick of a slow-building wall. The first crack came 3 months after I signed. I walked into our apartment one night after a brutal shift stocking pallets, and Lena was sprawled across the couch scrolling TikTok with takeout containers littering the table. Rent was late. Again. I asked if she'd sent the loan payment. She groaned, rolled her eyes like I'd just asked her to narrate War and Peace. "Relax, Daniel. It's 1 month. You're so obsessed with money. It's controlling." That word stuck like a splinter. Controlling. As if the reminder of the bill I literally put my name on was some act of tyranny. I wanted to yell but didn't. Instead, I cleaned up the noodles and kept my mouth shut. She posted a story the next day about how her supportive boyfriend kept her grounded. Meanwhile, I was grounded in debt. Then came the late nights. "Study groups," she said, dressed like she was about to hit a bar. Caleb caught sight of her downtown once with a guy draped over her shoulders, laughing like she used to laugh with me. When I confronted her, she laughed again, this time at me. You're paranoid. Do you want me chained to the apartment? See? Controlling. My stomach dropped because she knew the word worked on me. Made me doubt myself. Made me afraid I'd become the kind of man my father had been. The kind who barked orders and controlled every dollar. I wasn't that. But Lena twisted it so I'd feel guilty for noticing. Then one night, the truth crashed in. I came home early, arms full of groceries, and there was a strange pair of boots by the door. Voices in the bedroom. I stood there shaking, plastic bags cutting into my fingers, lettuce wilting in the heat. When the door opened, Lena's mascara was smudged, and behind her, a guy zipped his hoodie like he owned my place. She didn't look ashamed. She looked bored. Daniel, she sighed, like I was an interruption. This is Ryan. We've been meaning to talk to you. Meaning? Like it was a scheduled meeting I'd missed. My voice cracked. You've been cheating? She shrugged. You don't get it. You're suffocating me with all this financial stress. Ryan doesn't make me feel like I'm drowning in bills. Ryan smirked. That smirk burned into me worse than anything. I dropped the groceries right there. Glass jars shattered across the linoleum, spaghetti sauce bleeding out like an open wound. I didn't yell, didn't hit, just walked out. By the weekend, she was moved into Ryan's apartment, her stuff gone except for the unpaid bills. The kicker? Friends started reaching out, asking why Lena was telling people I'd been financially abusive, controlling her by tracking every dollar. My credit tanked within months. Late notices piled up like bricks. 7 years of that shadow hung over me. Jobs I couldn't get, apartments I couldn't rent, the number mocking me on every loan application. And Lena? She thrived. New jobs, promotions, glossy LinkedIn updates about resilience and independence. Photos with Ryan, then without him, then with newer guys, each richer than the last. Always glowing. Always untouched. 7 years of me clawing uphill while she sprinted on the escalator. 7 years of people buying her version and side-eyeing me. 7 years waiting. And now she's getting married to some wealthy executive with a glassy smile. And she's calling me again. Not to apologize. Not to pay me back. But because she needs those loans off her record. I've been waiting 7 long years to answer that call. Don't forget to subscribe. The years that followed felt like a punishment carved into my skin. Every time I tried to breathe, there was another reminder. My credit score flashing like a neon scarlet letter, job applications tossed aside because I failed the background check, landlords shaking their heads even when I had cash in hand. 7 years of being treated like a liability because I signed my name for Lena. She didn't just move in with Ryan, she weaponized the breakup. My friends, mutuals, old college buddies, started pulling away. Lena told anyone who'd listened that I'd been financially controlling, that I'd tracked her spending, demanded receipts, made her feel trapped. And people bought it because she had that gift. Lena could sell poison as perfume and folks would line up to spray it on. Caleb never believed her, though. He stuck by me, even when I was one missed payment away from losing the crummy apartment I'd clawed into after Lena left. He was the one who sat with me on the floor, sorting through envelopes stamped with red letters, reminding me that I wasn't the villain in her script. She's just good at theater, he'd say. But people always forget that actors eventually drop the mask. My mom, God, I'll never forget the disappointment in her eyes. Not at me, exactly. At the situation. She never said, "I told you so," but she didn't have to. Every time she looked at me, I felt like I was 12 again, breaking something expensive in the store and watching her apologize to the cashier. The shame wasn't just mine anymore. It was hers too. That cut deeper than Lena ever could. Meanwhile, Lena built her empire, promotions, Instagram perfect vacations, TEDx talk about navigating financial independence as a woman in a male-dominated economy. I nearly threw my laptop across the room when I saw that headline. Independence? She strapped me to a financial time bomb and skipped off whistling. But she looked radiant on stage, hair shining under the lights, talking about resilience like she hadn't left me buried under her debts. The thing about time, though, is it carves trenches. I got smarter, learned to live lean. I took brutal warehouse shifts, side jobs fixing gutters, anything to keep food on the table. Slowly, my credit crawled out of the grave she dug for me. Every time I hit a milestone, finally qualifying for a better apartment, finally getting a credit card with a limit above 500, it felt like clawing back a piece of myself. And then, one rainy Wednesday, the call came. Unknown number. I almost didn't pick up. But something told me to. Daniel. Her voice, smooth, practiced, almost casual. Like 7 years hadn't passed. Like she hadn't detonated my life. She talked about how life had been a journey. How she'd learned a lot about herself. How she was finally in a good place. Then she dropped it. She was engaged. To a man named Thomas, some finance executive. They were planning a fairy tale wedding. But, her voice cracked just enough to sound human. She needed to tie up loose ends. Those student loans. My name. She needed me. And in that moment, something inside me clicked. 7 years of waiting, 7 years of silence, 7 years of debts and ruined chances. Suddenly, it all had purpose. I'd been waiting for this conversation. And now, I was going to make it count. She didn't waste time easing into it. Within a week of that first call, Lena was everywhere again. Texts at midnight with long paragraphs about our shared responsibility. Emails with subject lines like urgent, loan discussion. One voicemail where she sniffled like she was crying, but somehow managed to sound rehearsed, like she'd practiced in front of a mirror. I ignored most of it, but she escalated fast. One Friday, I came home from work to find a note taped to my apartment door. My stomach dropped when I saw her handwriting, loopy, dramatic, like she was still scribbling in the margins of a college notebook. We need to meet. Don't make this harder than it has to be. The next morning, Lena showed up in person. I don't know how she found my place. Probably asked around, maybe stalked Caleb's socials. But suddenly she was there, outside my building, banging on the buzzer like a cop with a warrant. I froze at the sound of her voice through the speaker. Daniel, I know you're in there. Be an adult for once and let's talk about this face to face. I should have stayed inside, should have let her scream into the void. But curiosity, or maybe rage, dragged me down the stairs. 7 years had changed her. She still had that shine, still knew how to put herself together like a magazine cover, but her eyes gave her away. Too sharp, too calculating. And when she smiled at me, it wasn't warmth, it was triumph. Like she'd already decided I would fold. Hi, she said, like we were old friends. You look older. I didn't reply. Just crossed my arms. She launched into it, fast, like a salesperson who's already rehearsed the pitch. Thomas couldn't know about the loans, she said. His family was wealthy, image-conscious, judgmental. She'd built this new life, and the last thing she needed was financial baggage haunting her. You wouldn't want to ruin my future, Daniel. Not after everything we've been through. That word. We. Like we were still a team. Like she hadn't burned me alive and danced on the ashes. I told her no. Firm. Final. That's when her mask cracked. Her voice went high, sharp enough to cut glass. She accused me of still trying to control her. Said I was obsessed with punishing her. She started crying, loud, messy, attention-grabbing sobs, even though there was nobody else around to watch. She dropped onto the hood of my car, smearing mascara down her cheeks, wailing like I'd broken her heart all over again. When I tried to walk past her, she grabbed my arm hard enough to leave marks. You owe me this, she hissed. After everything I gave you, everything I sacrificed, don't pretend you didn't benefit from me. You wouldn't even be who you are without me. I peeled her hand off like it was poison. Told her if she didn't leave, I'd call the cops. For a second, she just stared at me, eyes wide, trembling smile, like she was daring me to mean it. Then she laughed. Oh, Daniel, you think you're scary? You think you have power here? She leaned in close enough that I felt her breath on my ear. You're still that same pathetic boy who needed me to make him interesting. Then she walked away, heels clacking against the pavement, like she'd just delivered the final blow. But she was wrong. For the first time in 7 years, I didn't feel pathetic. I felt dangerous. Because this wasn't about survival anymore. This was about payback. Don't forget to subscribe. Update. Didn't expect this to blow up. I posted the first part like I was just screaming into a void, but apparently, the void screamed back. Some of y'all are hilarious, some of y'all are savage, and some of you, yeah, you read me better than I read myself. First off, to the people saying, lawyer up king, trust me, I'm there. I've had 7 years to educate myself on how loans work, how liability works, and how exactly to make someone choke on the paper trail they left behind. A few of you suggested I just cave, sign her off, let it be over. No, absolutely not. I've lived in the wreckage of Lena's choices for 7 years. She rebuilt her life while mine was underwater. She gets her fresh start over my dead body. To the guy who commented, she's not coming back for you, bro. She's coming back for your signature. You nailed it. That's Lena in a sentence. Everything's a transaction with her, just dressed up in perfume and tears. A couple people messaged me asking if she really showed up at my apartment and threw a meltdown on my car. Yes. She screamed, cried, accused me of ruining her life, like she hadn't ruined mine already, and then walked away laughing like she'd just staged some performance art piece. I've still got the smear of her mascara on the hood of my Civic. A reminder, I guess. What shocked me most? The number of comments that said, don't just protect yourself, make her feel it. I thought I'd be the villain if I even entertained that thought. But reading the replies, nah, y'all get it. This isn't about bitterness. It's about justice. Symbolic justice. Some of you suggested wild revenge. Burn her wedding dress. Show up at the ceremony with a banner. Call Thomas and blow it up. Tempting, not gonna lie. But here's the thing. I don't want a messy headline. I want her to unravel in slow motion. I want her to feel the weight of 7 years the way I did. And I already know how to do it. Because Lena didn't just ruin my credit. She left a trail. Emails. Texts. Payment agreements with my name next to hers. I've been saving all of it, not because I knew this moment would come, but because I couldn't let myself forget. 7 years of evidence, sealed tight in a folder called receipts. And now, she's about to learn that the boy she once called pathetic has been waiting, sharpening, and building for this exact moment. So yeah, next time she calls, I'm not ignoring it. I'm going to give her exactly what she's been asking for, just not in the way she thinks. The next call came late at night. Lena's name lit up my phone like a warning flare. I let it ring twice before picking up. Daniel, she said, breathless, like she'd been crying, or pretending to. You can't keep ignoring this. I need you. That word again. Need. Like I was still her safety net. I stayed calm. Lena, the loans are your responsibility. You stopped paying. You ruined my credit for years. Why would I help you now? Her tone flipped in an instant, from fragile to furious. Because if you don't, I swear I'll make sure Thomas hears my side of the story first. Do you want him to know you've been stalking me, controlling me, harassing me all these years? I laughed. Actually laughed out loud. You really think that's going to work again? Silence. Then a sharp inhale, like she hadn't expected me to push back. She hung up. The next morning, Caleb texted, Bro, she showed up at my store. He manages a small outdoor gear shop downtown. Apparently, Lena stormed in mid-shift, demanding to know where I lived now, threatening to call the cops if Caleb didn't cooperate. He told her to get lost before he tossed her out. That was Lena's pattern. When the charm failed, she escalated. She didn't just want my signature, she wanted control back. And that's when I realized I had the upper hand for the first time in 7 years. See, I still had everything. The emails where she promised we'd pay together. The bank statements showing her deposits. Then sudden silence when she stopped contributing. Texts where she admitted she needed time before resuming payments, time that never came. Screenshots of her bragging to friends about how she'd stuck Daniel with the boring stuff while she was finally living. I'd been holding those receipts like scars. But now, they were weapons. So I made a plan. Step 1. bait her. Give her just enough hope to lean in close. I texted back the next day. Maybe we can talk about options. Not saying yes, not saying no. Just talk. Her reply came in seconds. Thank you. You won't regret this. Dinner? My treat? I agreed. Not because I wanted dinner, because I wanted her comfortable. I wanted her thinking I was folding. Caleb warned me. Don't let her spin it. Don't let her get inside your head again. I promised him I wouldn't. But secretly, I wanted her to try, because I wasn't just going to refuse her. I was going to make her unravel in front of the life she'd built. I pictured her perfect little world. Thomas in his tailored suits, the wealthy in-laws with their champagne smiles, the curated image she'd spent years manufacturing. And I pictured myself standing in the middle of it, holding the truth like a torch. 7 years of silence. 7 years of waiting. It was time to burn. Don't forget to subscribe. We met at a fancy Italian place she picked. White tablecloths, low lighting, the kind of spot where people whisper their problems over wine and hope no one overhears. Lena arrived dressed like a magazine spread. Black dress, hair curled, diamond earrings that screamed Thomas's money. She hugged me like we were old friends catching up, her perfume thick enough to choke me. Daniel, she said, smiling too wide, this feels full circle. I didn't return the smile. Just sat, folded my hands, and waited. She launched into it immediately. How her life was finally stable. How Thomas was the one. How she just needed a clean slate before marriage. You don't understand, Daniel, she said, touching my hand like she used to. If his family finds out about the loans, they'll think I'm irresponsible. This is the only thing standing in my way. I pulled my hand back. You mean the only thing standing in your perfect image? Her face twitched, but she didn't drop the act. Call it whatever you want. You just have to co-sign a release, then it's done. That's when I leaned forward, calm and slow. Lena, do you know what I've been doing these last 7 years? She blinked, wary. I've been collecting. I pulled out a small folder from my jacket. Her eyes widened. Inside, printed emails, screenshots, copies of payment notices with her name right beside mine. Every time you stopped paying. Every time you admitted it was your responsibility. Every time you bragged about dumping it on me. Her smile cracked. You wouldn't, I cut her off. I already have. Thomas is on LinkedIn, right? So are his parents, and his company's board. I wonder how they'd feel about your TEDx talk on financial independence if they saw the receipts. She went pale. For once, she couldn't find the right script. Daniel, she whispered, panic finally slipping through. Please, don't do this. We can work something out. And then, like the Lena I knew, she snapped. Her voice rose, sharp enough to turn heads from nearby tables. You're pathetic. You always have been. You think anyone cares about your little folder? You think Thomas would drop me for you? She shoved her glass, spilling wine across the table. A waiter rushed over, but she kept going, voice shrill, hands trembling. You don't get to ruin me. You don't get to win. The entire restaurant had gone silent. Couples were staring. Phones were out. She realized too late that she'd put on her own show. I stayed calm, even smiled a little. Funny thing, Lena, I don't have to ruin you. You just did it yourself. Then I stood, left a few bills for the mess she made, and walked out. By the time I hit the sidewalk, my phone was buzzing. Caleb again. Dude, her meltdown is already on TikTok. Someone tagged her. I couldn't stop laughing. 7 years of her controlling the story, and in 5 minutes, she'd torched her own image without me lifting a finger. And this was just the beginning. Update 2. Well, I didn't expect it to blow up that fast. Last time I posted, I was gearing up for dinner with Lena. Thought it would just be a quiet little showdown. Instead, she gave the internet front row seats to her own implosion. For everyone asking, yes, the meltdown at the restaurant was real. She screamed, threw a glass, called me pathetic. The whole 9 yards. And because this is 2025 and people film everything, there are at least 3 different angles floating around TikTok right now under the hashtag FinanceQueenFails. Somebody even put the video to dramatic violin music. I shouldn't laugh, but I've replayed it a dozen times. The comments are brutal. Strangers dissecting her crocodile tears, the way she flipped from fake sweet to banshee rage in seconds. Someone wrote, "She's giving Shakespeare in the park but forgot the script." Another said, "Imagine marrying into that circus." I'd feel bad if I didn't still have credit card scars from her circus act. Thomas hasn't called me, yet, but a mutual friend messaged Caleb saying Lena's wedding planning group chat is on fire. Half her bridesmaids are bailing because they don't want to be involved in drama. Word is Thomas's family saw the clip, and they're not impressed. Guess her perfect image isn't so bulletproof. And here's the kicker. Lena's been blowing up my phone since that night. Pages of texts, swinging between begging, "Please, Daniel, I'll do anything," and raging, "You're obsessed, you'll never escape me." Last voicemail, she was sobbing so hard I could barely make out the words, but I caught one clear sentence. "You've destroyed me." Funny thing is, I haven't even pulled the real trigger yet. That folder of receipts? Still untouched. Haven't sent it to Thomas. Haven't posted a thing. She managed to torture herself all on her own. And me? For the first time in 7 years, I feel light. Like I've been holding my breath and finally let it out. But don't worry, I'm not done. This isn't just about embarrassing her in a restaurant. This is about closure, about making sure she never drags me down again. So yeah, Lena, if you're still reading this like I suspect you are, know this. The real show hasn't even started yet. The texts didn't stop. Pages of them, every night like clockwork. One moment Lena was begging, "Please, Daniel, don't do this. I'll pay you back. I'll fix it." The next, she was raging. "You think you're better than me? You were nothing without me. Nothing." At first, I muted the notifications. Then Caleb convinced me to screenshot everything. Paper trail, man. Always keep the receipts. He was right. Every unhinged message was another nail in the coffin she built herself. But Lena wasn't satisfied with blowing up my phone. One night, I came home to find my apartment door scratched raw, like someone had gone at it with a key. Inside, nothing was stolen, but the drawer where I keep my mail had been rifled through. I knew it was her. Who else would care about my bills? I called Caleb. He showed up with a baseball bat and that look he gets when he's ready to swing first, ask later. "She's spiraling," he muttered. "She's gonna burn her own life down trying to light yours." And she did. A week before her wedding, Lena showed up at my work, full-on scene in the parking lot, screaming that I'd ruined her life, while customers stood frozen with their shopping carts. She threw her purse at my windshield, cracking it, then collapsed onto the hood, wailing about how I owed her closure. My manager had to call security. The videos made it online within hours. This time, it wasn't just TikTok teens laughing. Local Facebook moms, LinkedIn sharks, even Twitter threads tore her apart. The finance queen who preached independence, now reduced to a sobbing storm outside a grocery store. And the fallout hit her wedding hard. Word spread fast. Thomas's family wanted answers. Did she really have hidden debt? Was she lying about her past? Thomas himself showed up at my place 2 days later. I'll never forget that knock on my door. He stood there in his immaculate suit, looking like he'd stepped out of a catalog. Polite, reserved, but his jaw was clenched. "Daniel," he said, "I need the truth. What's going on with Lena?" I let him in. Sat him down. Slid the folder across the table. 7 years of proof. He read silently, his face sinking with each page. When he finished, he closed the folder, exhaled slow, and said only one thing. "Thank you for your honesty." Then he left. 2 nights later, I got another message from Lena. This time not begging, not raging. Just one line. "The wedding's off. Are you happy now?" I stared at it for a long time. I didn't reply. Because it wasn't about being happy. It was about being free. And for the first time in 7 years, I finally was. I thought it was over. Thought Lena would slink off into the shadows, lick her wounds, and rebuild somewhere else like she always did. But Lena never knew how to lose quietly. The night her wedding was supposed to happen, I was at Caleb's place, drinking cheap beer on his back porch. We were laughing, really laughing for the first time in years, when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I picked up, screaming, wind in the background, and Lena's voice, raw and broken. I hope you're proud of yourself, Daniel. You destroyed me. You took everything from me. Then the line went dead. Caleb saw my face drain and grabbed his keys. Where? We found out quick enough. An hour later, videos started surfacing. Lena in her ruined wedding dress, mascara streaked, standing outside Thomas's gated neighborhood with a bottle of wine in one hand and a bullhorn in the other. She was shrieking about betrayal, about men who abandon women after using them, about how she was the real victim. Neighbors filmed from their windows. Security finally dragged her away, barefoot, screaming Thomas's name. By morning, the clips had gone viral. The hashtags this time weren't mocking. They were savage. Run, Thomas, run. Bridezilla breakdown. Sponsors dropped her speaking gigs. Her job quietly removed her from their website. The image she'd spent 7 years building crumbled in 48 hours. And me? I stayed silent. Didn't gloat. Didn't comment. I just watched the same way I'd watched my credit score burn 7 years ago. Except this time, it wasn't me on fire. A week later, I got a final message. No rage, no begging. Just a photo. Lena, sitting in some dingy apartment, empty wine bottles at her feet, eyes hollow. Caption: I always thought I'd be the one to leave you behind. I didn't respond. Deleted the message, blocked the number. Because for the first time in almost a decade, I realized something. Lena wasn't my story anymore. She was just a chapter. A brutal, messy, humiliating chapter, but one I'd finally closed. Caleb slapped me on the back the next time we met up. You're free, man. 7 years late, but free. And he was right. My credit was rebuilt, my name was clean, and Lena? She was just a ghost on the internet. A cautionary tale with 1,000 laughing comments under her name. Sweetest revenge I've ever tasted. Not because I destroyed her, but because she destroyed herself, while I walked away whole.